Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining the Peace of Wellness podcast. My name is Kirsten Larsen, and I am your host. This is a podcast with the purpose of bringing two different men with different backgrounds together to talk about a common topic. And they got a heads up on this topic ahead of time, so they should be pros in talking about it. So I have two gentlemen with me here today. I have Shay Harmon, who's going to share a bit about himself, and Aaron Winder. And I will let you, Shay, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been in Vegas now about 2 years. I just hit my 2-year mark.
Congrats.
So you've been one of my best friends since I've been here. So
Yes.
Kirsten, for anyone who doesn't know, is a superhero. She involves everyone where needed and thinks of everyone the best way possible. A little bit about me. I'm a huge people person. I've always been involved in the community, whether it's, volunteering my time just with local efforts or whether working with the chamber, some of the stuff I do with Kirsten here. And then I'm a big sports nerd as well. So that's my profession. My background is in pro sports. I currently work for MGM Sports Department. We partner with teams and leagues across the country to promote our brand. And my background prior to that was on the team side of sports. So I've been with the Golden State Warriors, the Boston Red Sox, the South Carolina Gamecocks, my alma mater. So I've bounced around the last couple of years. But since being in Vegas, it's been a huge welcoming community. So I've been loving it here the last two. So no plans to leave right now.
I love it. And where are you from originally?
Originally from Atlanta. Good
Okay.
question. So immersed myself in a bunch of different cultures, but I gotta say Vegas is one of the best melting pots in the country for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Shay.
Yeah.
And Aaron, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Aaron Winder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm born and raised in Las Vegas. I'm a fourth generation Las Vegan,
That's
so
amazing.
love to hear good things about my city.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a personal injury attorney
Mhm.
out here. We take all sorts of cases, from allergy cases to car accidents, slip and falls. I really enjoy helping people through the personal injury process, which can be quite daunting.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
Of course.
Well, this is going to be our relationship episode. So we are going to dive into some differences between being married, being in a relationship, and being single. That's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So I will have you share your relationship status, how long you've been with the person, and then my fun favorite question is, what is your superpower as an individual? What makes you special and unique? So we'll have you start with that, Shay.
I'm hoping I don't say anything wrong here. She's
You're
setting me up. I'm the guy in the relationship. I'm not married. I'm not locked in yet.
Mm-hmm.
I have been dating my girlfriend, Alexis, now for the last couple months. Really, we started about 6 months ago. You know, there's the talking stage, then you move into a little bit more serious, and then you get the title. So I did finally get the title.
Right, locked her in.
Back in June. So last couple months, we've been a little bit more serious with stuff, but really been talking since March. Had been a while since I'd been in a relationship prior to this. Like I'd mentioned, bouncing around cities is really tough. If you don't have something holding you down, you gotta,
For sure.
continue to meet new people, put yourself out there. So I'd been a little bit stagnant in doing that until I moved here, but some really great people, and I was fortunate to have met her. So in relationship mode right now for sure.
And I do know Alexis, and she's very, very sweet. So I stamp approve this
Nice.
relationship.
She got
And
the
I
Kirsten
actually do
check.
this one too.
Yeah.
So just wait till we get there. And what's your superpower? What makes you special and unique?
I'd say my superpower is making friends, but solely in the sense that I can connect with a bunch of different types of people, and more than that, really furthering that thought is connecting different types of people who you wouldn't think would mesh well. You do all those different types of skill tests for, your jobs, different professions. My
personality tests.
number one trait every single time is harmony.
Oh,
So,
I love that.
I've really liked and taken on the challenge of bringing groups of people together that may not normally fit, and finding synergies where there might not be.
I love that. Well, I have met both of these gentlemen networking out in the wild in Las Vegas. So it makes sense that Shay's a connector, I'm a connector, and Aaron has probably connected a thing or two once upon a
Yeah, I
time.
was gonna say that's my special power too, right? I feel like I'm just able to connect with people and have genuine conversations
Yeah.
pretty quickly, or even in my law practice. one of my specialties is being able to deal with difficult clients,
Mhm.
right, and
Oh,
walk them
sure.
through the process. So I think something about my demeanor and my ability to laugh and cry at the same time or whatever, I can help difficult clients
Yeah.
connect with people.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what is your relationship status?
So I am happily married. Yeah, very happily
Or
married.
in trouble.
Yeah.
If he's not happy, he's in
yeah, I
trouble.
mean, a little bit of trouble. That never hurt anybody, But yeah, I've been married it'll be 2 years in November.
Okay.
And we've been dating for, it'll be 3 years. I mean, we dated for a year and then we married after that.
Mhm.
So we've been together, I guess, for 3 years. Just about.
And Jessica is also a dear friend of mine.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I love both of these duos here, both of these
Yeah.
relationships here. So
Yeah.
I want to dive into the topics of this conversation. And so number one biggest question I have, which I just love this question, is how do you feel like you move differently as a married man than maybe when you were just even casually dating or single?
It's a great question. I move completely differently
Mhm.
now, right? One thing I've talked to my wife about is now that I'm married, it takes the pressure off when I'm having conversations with other women, right? Like clearly I'm married, I'm flashing
Yeah.
my ring, my wife's usually who I'm talking about. So I feel like it disarms them
Yeah.
and it kind of allows me to have a more genuine conversation because there's no
other agenda.
ulterior motive.
Yeah,
No
okay.
agenda or nothing like that.
I like that.
So that's allowed me to move differently in the world since I've been married, for sure.
Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
So then it's you knowing that you're comfortable and feeling good in your relationship, and then you can kind of put those tidbits out there to the women so they're not thinking that anything else could be going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And then maybe you can have a genuine conversation.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's no hidden ulterior motives. There's no, none
Anything
of
weird.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about
Get down to
hot
business much
dogs.
quicker.
Yeah.
Whatever it is,
I like that.
Yeah.
And so then for you, Shay, how do you feel like you're moving differently now? You're in a newer relationship, but still a relationship, committed, right? You guys have a title. And how do you feel like you're moving differently than when you were either in the talking stage or single, both of those as well?
It's funny you asked that. It actually is pretty significantly different. I'd say the biggest factor that's changed, two parts. One is just amount of time that I'm investing into relationships with people I don't know very well. Often when you're in the single space, you're trying to, vet your options for who might be a good suitor,
Potential candidate.
as a friend too, right?
Sure, yeah.
And so dedicating much less time to that because obviously you have someone you're already connected with. And then the second thing I'd say is just syncing on calendars still has to do with time.
Yeah.
Dedicating time to delve into your partner's interests, having them immerse themselves in your life too. So I think that's a big factor for me, and really taking into account some of the things that are important to them, making sure it's well known in advance.
Yeah.
That's certainly been a big change for me.
Well, and I think that leads into my next question, which is how have your priorities either changed or how have you adjusted them to really make your relationship a priority? Like you're speaking of time and making sure that calendars sync and all of that, because, we're all busy and we're all hustling and we're in the time of our lives, especially your pre-kids, right? So it's still about work and making time for that person. Have you had to shift priorities a bit as far as that goes, or do you feel like that is just kind of an added priority?
It's added, but you definitely have to shift. I mean, you can't make new time in your day, right? There's
Right.
only 24
There's 24
hours. I
hours.
can't add a 25th as much as I want to.
Yeah.
But really cutting back on certain things. I mean, a big one for me would be like physical health. I'd not cut it entirely out, but
Sure.
when you're looking for the girl, you're working out real hard, trying to be in best shape as possible, right? But since then, trying to figure out ways that I can sync with her on some quality time too. I think it's more than just like, hey, let's sync up for lunch, in the middle of the week. Whereas you really should dedicate specific time to checking in on your relationship, seeing how she's doing, and really formulating a plan to tackle whatever problems that either persist in her life or in the relationship too. So fortunately, I haven't had too many of those instances so far, but I'm sure Aaron knows the routine of that needs to be a consistent thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Checking in is a must, right? Right. We have 2 kids, they just turned 1. She's pregnant with 2 more children.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
2 sets of twins.
2
Congratulations.
sets of
man.
twins.
It's
Amazing.
exciting.
So I have 4 kids under a year and a half old. So yeah, our lives are very intertwined, but one thing we do is check in with each other nightly, really.
Yeah.
How's your day? What'd you do today? How'd it go with this? How'd it go with that? How was your time with the kids? Like all that is really built into our day.
Yeah, as part of the routine.
As part of the routine. And luckily, I like my wife. Like I really do. Like I like my wife.
She is a good one.
Yeah, she's dope. So, yeah, our lives are completely, intertwined.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
The Shay's comment about quality time actually makes me think of the 5 love languages, which I wasn't necessarily going to talk about, but I'm curious if the 2 of you know what those 5 are, if it's been a conversation that you've had with your partner and you kind of know how that person ranks each one and, does it line up with yours, or do you have to make special effort to kind of speak to them in their language? Is it a conversation you guys have had?
I have had it, yes.
Yeah?
I would assume so, being newer in the relationship too. I think it's prioritized a little bit sooner. But like you said, you gotta figure out how to communicate. I can't recite all 5 of them.
But do you know what's important to Alexis?
Yes,
yeah, and what's
do.
hers?
She likes words of affirmation
Okay.
are very key to her. Acts of kindness, I'd say, is the other big pillar. So it's really good because they align with mine a lot. Those are 2 of my tops. Just having that constant notion reinforced in your life that, hey, I'm still here. Nothing's changed. I still feel the same way. I think that can go a long way for some people who, might need that reinforcement. And then just acts of kindness and acts of service. I mean, you can say all the nice things you want to about someone, but showing it.
Are you actually showing up?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I hope she would say that I am, right? But
and it sounds like, sorry to interrupt, but it sounds like those come pretty easily for you. So then it aligns with her pretty easily. Is that what you would say?
And especially when it's in, acts of service to one another, but it can also align with like her pillars, one of her big pillars is community involvement and giving back. So if I'm consistently doing that and aligning myself with some of the things she values, I think that's also an act of kindness in a way.
Yeah.
Making her interests mine is also been a shift in priorities. I mean, there's certain activities that I'm not as up to speed on or am not as nerdy about, like I mentioned. And same with her to me. So really introing that and making it a safe space for her to nerd out on some of the things she really enjoys.
Yeah. And am I going to see her starting to wear jerseys of all these different teams that you've been?
She might have to.
As a reciprocal, act for you.
Totally.
That's good.
But like you said, it's a 2-way street.
Yeah, for sure. And what about for you, Aaron? Is it a conversation that you guys have had and you're well aware of what Jessica's are and vice versa? Yeah.
And so we actually recently had the conversation again, right? Because it feels like it changed a little bit once we had the children.
Oh, I bet,
right?
actually.
And so hers are acts of service. That's her kind of her
Big
number one because she's very much a doer.
Yeah.
She's a doer.
She gets stuff done. Okay.
And so for her, acts of service are the way she feels the most love. In other words, keep helping her do some of this stuff.
Well, and so that was going to make me ask, what are a couple examples of those for some of our audience members that may not be familiar with it? Like, what does an act of service mean?
Well, right now it's literally just helping with the kids and stuff around the house, right? And so,
like doing the dishes and helping with the laundry,
right?
And so
it's funny. Even literally the other day, she's like, I just need a little bit more help around the house, and I'm like, ooh, because I'm every day, right? I'm doing this, every day. We're both doing things, right? Yeah. But the way our schedules line up and everything, and the way her personality is, she definitely does more, you know. So. But she was like, I need, basically I need a little bit more help around the house. And I'm like, ooh, okay.
You got to lock in, you got to adjust.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, let me pick it up again because
I think this actually brings up a great point, and something that we see on a lot of Instagram memes is that when women say that we want something done, it's like literally we want it done this second. And men sometimes interpret this as I'll do it later after I'm done with my game or my video game or whatever, right? I would say that the timeline for women and men are a little bit different sometimes. And that's the thing where I think for a lot of women, if they are taskmasters, like I know Jessica and myself are, right, then we are like going through this mental list and this. And then if we want it to be done now, we know we either have to do it or it might be a lag. And I think sometimes it's also the woman accepting that, it may not be done exactly when I want it, but it will get done, and having a little flexibility with that too, because I know my type A girlfriends, and Jessica's not the only one. I have many who are kind of like, well, I would love for him to clean, but he doesn't do it the way I want it, when I want it,
Yeah.
And so it really is finding a balance and a compromise with that.
For sure. And I would rather her be type A, right, and get stuff done than not. So don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But like one of the things is the laundry. She's just, she is on it with the laundry.
You guys must go through a lot of clothes.
And we do. We do go through a lot of laundry. And so, and I think my timeline on the laundry is just not the same. So she is like on it, But so yeah, I just gotta kind of show up and try to do a little bit more. And I'm telling you, I do stuff.
You do some things.
This is not one of them things.
You're lucky she was communicating it to you rather than letting it, bottle up and then boil over like that too.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she's an all-star, right? So we want to keep her happy. We want to keep her engaged and in the game,
Yeah, we want to keep her around.
Yeah, the matriarchy of the household.
For sure. Me and my dad talked about, like, you never want to do a full accounting with your wife because you're always going to owe a lot. So just...
I love this commentary.
You know what I'm saying? Just do what needs to be done.
Don't play tit for tat.
You don't want to do it. I'm telling you.
Yeah, you can't be a what have you done for me lately?
Dude, you can't
do that.
You'll end up short every time.
You're gonna be short every time.
And I'm telling you, like, I do stuff, but her timeline is just different. So I just try to pick it up a little bit.
And be more aware of it
because I'm more of a quality time. So that's mine. It's quality time. I just want to hang out, be with you, laugh, have you talk some shit to me. I'll talk some shit to you. And then I think I like words of affirmation. I like to give words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes she's like, listen, I appreciate the words of affirmation, but we need some acts of service too. I'm like, okay, baby, I'll pick it up.
Yeah, but it helps. It helps.
Yeah. Well,
I love that that book has actually framed these conversations for couples, because... And not that, I actually say, it's funny because I refer to food as like one of my love languages. Sometimes I don't think it really covers everything because I like to give food to other people, or like, when people buy me food, if I have had a stressful day and someone brings me food, they are the best person in the world to me. Like, and so I refer to that. It is an act of service.
It really is an act of service.
It is an act of service.
Like, it fits neatly right in there.
Exactly. But I like to kind of delineate it a little differently. But I like that it frames conversations for couples to have this, like, are you feeling love from me? Because I think that we're all giving it. It's just not always in the way that they're receiving it the best, And so making sure that actually aligns is where we have two happier campers, than we may have otherwise. But I like this conversation too, because my next question for you, gentlemen, is how do you feel like your habits or your routines have changed, either because of your partner or because of, the fact that you're in a relationship, or just making that a priority? Do you feel like it has changed your habits and behaviors in any way?
Certainly has. I'd say it's made me have a little bit more of a concise and clear routine. Knowing I'm going to be dedicating extra time and effort to certain things, whether it's going on dates, doing things for her, or even just being available. I think takes a little bit of thought and advance notice. But other than that, I think it's really just your ability to be open and know that you're going to need to recharge their social batteries. One thing Aaron said earlier, I think that resonated with me was, with quality time being your love language, it really does help recharge your social battery and your, for lack of a better term, relationship battery. It can really help reset where you guys are at, bring it back to center. So I'd say knowing I need that extra time throughout each day has made me, like you said, cut off certain things.
Yeah.
Adjust the schedule to be a little bit more flexible should stuff come up, knowing there's someone else relying on me now too, other than just, Shay looking out for Shay.
Yeah.
So that's been an adjustment. And then also a big thing too is like checking in, as a single guy in my 20s, typically the only person you got to rely on is yourself. And you check in with the parents every once in a while,
Sure.
Usually when they're knocking down your door saying, hey, we haven't heard
Hello,
from
are you alive?
But making sure that your significant other doesn't have to do that, right?
Yes.
So I think that's where a little bit of more time dedication, slating time at night, if I can see her that day, to make sure she knows what's going on with me. Because how is your significant other partner going to be able to help you if they don't even know what's going on?
Oh, sure.
So
if they're not apprised of the situation. I actually
Totally.
love that you brought this up, because a relationship that I had, a long-term relationship that I had in my 20s, he never really had to like check in with his parents. And so he is just this rolling stone out there in the world doing his own thing on his own schedule, very loosely and very freely. And when we first started dating, if he would go out of town, like go back home, leave, there would be like 24, 36 hours that I had not heard a sign of life from this man. And guess what? That doesn't really work for women.
it doesn't fly. Yeah, it doesn't fly.
It does not fly. And so
I'm surprised you even let him last 36
You're right,
hours.
yeah,
I was gonna
exactly.
say, like, the
that I
search
didn't
party.
hunt him down.
Yeah.
And
You
yeah.
probably did, though.
I know I did in a way, but it was so interesting because, again, in our 20s, right, like we're learning kind of these new things about ourselves, certainly, and then trying to align that and match that with another person who's still learning about themselves as well. And so it's just always really interesting to me to kind of see what adjustments we have to make, that when we're by ourselves, there's no one telling us that it is or isn't okay, you know? So it's all okay.
Yeah.
And so I actually always say that I learn so much more about myself when I'm in a relationship, because they're holding up a mirror in a lot of situations and just being like, that thing that you do every day, I don't really care for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you really have to kind of readjust and reevaluate and reflect on those things. So I love that you brought that up, because
And that's where compatibility comes in, right? Because, I mean, there are some couples that one lives in Florida, the other one lives in California, right?
Sure.
And then there's some that are probably checking in and texting every hour. So
Yeah.
I do think there's some of it is just compatibility, and then some
what
of it
works
is you
for them.
need,
Yeah.
right?
What
you do
works
need to
for the
make
individual,
adjustments.
for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, some people don't need to be checked on like all the time, to your point. If anything, it could deter the relationship if they're like, hey,
It's
is
too
there
much.
even any sense of trust, and that I'm, going to give you the info you need, and being, a faithful person. So I think there's a little bit to that as well.
Yeah.
But I think the cool part is this stuff changes over time. So it works for you
How
today.
dare these things
Yeah.
No,
change?
you make a great point. I haven't fully experienced that evolution yet. but
Man,
I'm sure
where-
in a marriage it's so different too.
Well, yeah, and I'm pretty early on, right? But I could see how when, things
Once
can change.
kids,
Yeah.
once kids are in school
Yes.
or out of school,
Then it's like,
moving
have
around.
you checked in on the kids, or have you whatever? Or then the kids are out of the house. It could look a
Yeah.
lot different.
I think too, now being a person in my late 30s, I actually really am amazed by relationships that back in the day really lasted decades, 40 and 50 years, and even longer, because who I was in my 20s and what I knew and what I understood about myself. And truly now, I say now, like I really am so much of a better version than I was in my 20s. And I still have so many flaws, and I have things that I'm working on and all that, of course, but it's like the person who gets me now it's actually better than it was then,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really feel like it's miraculous and amazing for people to come together at 23, 25 and then make it 35, 45, 55, you know, because to Aaron's point, the number of changes that are happening within us, plus the number of changes that are happening externally, it really is amazing, you know, to be able to maneuver those with another person in tow.
Well, yes, I think the good version is folks are changing and growing. I think there's another version where folks are maybe stuffing down those changes, right, and just kind of going along
Staying
to get
stagnant.
along.
Being a little, complacent and where they're at.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean,
that's a good point too.
Yeah,
not everyone cares to grow or evolve.
Well, that's another compatibility thing, right?
Yeah.
Where that's kind of one of our main tenets of our relationship.
Agreed.
So one thing we did is when she got pregnant, I don't know if it's we or she now, like you get shit anywhere, either way you go. But when
she got pregnant,
yeah. But when my wife got pregnant, one thing we did like what is it, maternal counseling or something like that.
Yeah.
Because there's so many change. Well, first of all, we were still newlyweds,
Yeah.
and she's gonna have 2 babies, so there's so many changes coming on at once, and then you bring
It's a little overwhelming.
and you bring babies in the mix, and now the family dynamic becomes more a part of your relationship, and all these things change. So we did therapy just to kind of help us with the changes. You know,
I love that.
I mean, you had to establish your role probably as a true difference of, all right, I'm going from now husband to a father.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a
And what does that
significant
mean?
jump.
Right.
Yeah, what does that entail?
How does that show
And
up?
he had just recently jumped to being a husband too, so it really was these very
Quite quickly
changes.
after.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we like to grow and change. It's something we talk about a lot, but some couples may not, but it's worked for us.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. So curious for the two of you, I would love to hear kind of how did you lock in on this one particular person? Like, was there something that she, brought out in you or did for you that others hadn't? Or, did you identify certain things in her that you just really loved and cared for? Like, what was the difference in this one person to kind of make this transition happen for you guys?
I'll let you go first.
Yeah. I'm 40 now, right? So when I met her, I think I was 36 or 37.
Yeah.
And I had basically been looking for her my whole life, and I mean that. She had all the things I had been looking for. In fact, things I was looking for, I didn't even know I was looking for, right?
Yeah.
In terms of just versatility and her intelligence and her her laughter and all that kind of stuff. So as soon as I met her, like I knew really quickly. And so for me to propose after 6 months, if you would have known me in my 20s, because I dated a woman for 9 years in my 20s.
Wow.
Yeah. And so for me to propose to someone after 6 months it was kind of insane, but of course, having gone through it, I know now, and you do know.
Yeah.
And I used to not believe that.
Yeah.
But now, like
now
I'm
you're
just
on the
telling
when
you
know train, huh?
I guess
Yep.
so. And I hate to be the one that says that, right? Like, oh, just hang in there, it'll happen or whatever. But like, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's that simple, though.
It was for me.
The intangible.
Yeah.
I mean, along with all these tangible things, because of course I know that you can list all kinds of wonderful qualities that this woman has, but then there is this like intangible, she just fit for me kind of thing is what it sounds like.
Yeah. And I think her versatility, right? I consider myself pretty versatile in a lot of different ways. So her versatility, and then I'm really able to truly be myself with her, and like the different versions of myself that exist, right? I'm really able to do that with her, and I never really had that. Probably, and a lot of it's because I wasn't ready and stuff. Like you said earlier, she got the best version of me, right? In all fairness, like I was not ready for her until I actually met her, So
I love that because I think for you to say I had been waiting for her my whole life, had she shown up when you were 25, or 29, it wouldn't have necessarily been what it is now. And I know she's said that to me, right, for both of you, because you both, you know, had been through a lot and had gone through a lot, and again, had dated and not necessarily been ready. So I feel like the timing was really critical, but it's like you found this person that had all these things at the right time as well.
Yeah, and the truth is, when I was in kind of my early to mid 30s, I made a decision like, all right, I need to get myself ready so that when this person does come along, I'll be ready and
capable to display all the greatest qualities that you have.
Right. Because in some ways, the woman I really wanted wouldn't have accepted me when I wasn't ready in my 20s, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's this weird paradox.
I love this reflection and awareness now, you know?
Yeah. But I consciously had kind of decided like, all right, I'm going to really start to get myself together so that when she comes along, I'll be ready.
Yeah, I love that.
And so I kind of tied up some loose ends, did some things
and
differently.
Elaborate a little bit on this tied up some loose ends and got myself together, just for our audience who's wondering, you know,
I feel
what
like,
are these loose ends?
Listen,
there's a character arc that took place at some point.
I mean, this is going to be on the internet forever. I can't give you all my secrets.
Just give us a couple loose ends.
But no, just really like therapy, right? And stopping the drinking, continuing to work out, kind of taking that next step in my own maturity, right? So that, like I said,
so really taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And really being ready. Because, like, you know, I'm never going to be a perfectionist neat freak or whatever. But, like, you know, my place was clean or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and so it was kind of like that in a lot of different areas. Like, you know, making sure my credit was in order, and I was able to go out on dates, and just taking care of all these little things so that when I met this woman that I knew was out there or whatever, I thought was out there, when I met her, I'd be ready, and she'd be attracted to me.
You built your piece. You know, I think that's what's so important as a man sometimes in today's society, that we often forget, like, that a woman has to bring us our piece, but no, we can build that on our own, and she can help us build upon that and maintain it.
But please have a foundation,
yes,
right?
Have some
like,
sort of
point,
pillars,
right? Women, we can bring a lot, but y'all have to have the foundation, right? We gotta have some critical
we gotta interest
pieces.
you somehow, right?
We have to have some critical pieces in place, right, before truly you're ready to take on, you know, this person. And so, Shay, I'm curious for you, kind of back to this original question that I guess sort of evolved, but how do you feel like you kind of had prepared yourself to be ready for this? But also, what does she do for you, or what did she do that kind of really caught your attention?
Yeah, those are both really great points. And I do really love this question. And we'll build off what Aaron said. You know, I think anyone who goes into a successful relationship has done that work prior to make themselves available, and maybe not the best version, but a better version of themselves, to be able to support another person's, you know, interests and needs and wants. So I certainly did that as well. That was a big decision in moving to Vegas, just needing a new slate, a clean slate, and just the ability to jump in head first to changing. And in doing so, you know, something we touched on earlier, you learn about yourself, you figure out what you need. And so that kind of has shaped my approach, and why I viewed her so differently is very much the intent, you know, specifically in Vegas and just in across the country for people in their 20s. It's usually tough to figure out what people's intentions are in dating, right? Are you looking for just someone to go out with, someone to be seen with, someone to show off? Are you looking for a one-night stand? Let's hope not. But some people, you know, are in it for a sexual intent, and then others are looking for a true relationship and rock and foundation. And so with me and Alexis, I think the thing that was different and what we aligned on so well is that we were both looking for a best friend. You know, different from our past relationships of you know, putting on a certain facade or trying to come off a certain way to someone as like as boyfriend or girlfriend material, right? No, we're looking for someone to be fully ourselves with. And in that approach of having a best friend, a life teammate of sorts, I think you're much more suited for success because you'll prioritize what each other need to be successful and happy. Really is the ultimate goal, right? That's all we're trying to do in this world. And so I think leading with that best friend approach was what separated her in my mind, because she made it clear and was concise in her communication.
Yeah.
And I think it displays a level of maturity. You know, one thing my mom always used to say when I was going through it, or had a breakup, or a scenario didn't go the way you wanted to, is girls don't know what they want, but women do. So I think that's a sign of maturity.
Yeah.
And, hopefully I've entered that era of my life too.
Well, a couple things that I really love that you mentioned, Shay, is the intentionality. I feel like truly to be in a relationship that is committed and healthy, both people have to be showing up with that intent, like the intent is so, it's so much of that, like the intention. And I think that when both people, their intentions are aligned, as you described, then we do have these two relationships that are, really very successful and happy. And it's funny because anytime anyone mentions like happiness and wanting to be happy, I do have to mention that happiness is fleeting, as every feeling is, right?
It is temporary.
It is temporary.
Yes.
Like sadness, like all of our feelings are fleeting, right? But truly, and what I believe in with my coaching practice and when I worked in inpatient psychiatry, is that if I can help people find a sense of contentment or peace, that's what we want, and you want to find the contentment with yourself and with your partner. And that's really the goal, because there are so many factors that are going to impact whether we're happy or sad, And again, those feelings are always going to pop up for the rest of our lives if we're actually in tune with them and allowing them to be, popping up. But that's like one thing that I like to mention, because sometimes I have clients who are, I think, a little just unrealistic about like, I don't want to feel sad again. Okay, well, I love that for you, and I would love that for myself.
Sorry to break it to you, bud. That's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. But that's life,
Yeah.
And so I like to, kind of throw that one in there. But I love what you both said about, how you all really showed up differently and kind of ready for this relationship. And
Well, yeah, and I think the intentionality is a big, big part.
yeah.
Especially nowadays, right, where you have this internet dating and you have so many options, which I think is a good thing, right? I actually think it's a great thing.
Yeah.
But you do have so many options that, what do you really want? Let's kind of make sure we're on the same page with that.
Absolutely.
And so part of getting myself together or whatever is that I knew I really did actually want kids. I really did want to be married.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to kind of put myself in the lane so that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when we first started talking, because we actually met on eHarmony. That's how we met.
I love that.
We met on eHarmony.
Yeah.
And so, and we had talked for 3 weeks. But anyway, one of the things, and then she came in town, but one of the things that we talked about amongst a bunch was just children, right? And one day she was like, I don't know if I want kids. I'm like, all right, well, that's a deal breaker, right? This is pretty early on.
Miss has 4 kids on the way.
and I think, and honestly,
but as a fellow woman, I understand the struggle. So continue.
Well, yeah, and I think from her perspective too, there's a lot that goes into
there's
it. Right?
So much.
You don't want to be thought as only a baby maker,
There's
and
so
like,
much.
do you love me for me, or you just want kids and all this kind of stuff. So I get that.
Yeah,
but
it's an identity crisis for some of us.
I stood my ground though. Like, listen, that is a deal breaker because it was, and I knew she wanted kids. She had already told me she did. So that's a whole other thing. But I think the intentionality is a big deal, and like what your mom said about girls versus women, or really boys versus men, about being able to be honest about your intentions.
Yeah.
Because if you just want to hang out, or you just want a one night stand, or whatever, there's nothing wrong with that.
Plenty of other people that are in line with that. Yeah.
But what I'm not okay with is kind of lying about that.
Dishonesty.
Like,
Yeah,
you're
straight
telling
up.
this girl you want something long term and you really don't. Like, that's not, that's not cool.